Well, welcome back to our Commercial Mastery Series. I'm Kevin Derrick, and this module is all about the cash flow model. This is about analysis and how through a cash flow analysis we can start making money for you and for your business. So, in the last module, we went through the income, expenses, and the entire cash flow analysis down to the all-important NOI, or net operating income. Now, we are going to take a sample property and some basic property characteristics, and we're going to fill in a cash flow model. Folks, you need to know how to do this. You need to know the foundation of how to do this, all of the different elements and intricacies of how a cash flow model works with a property. And by the end of this module, you are going to have a very good handle, a solid grasp on how to transfer property details and characteristics into a cash flow model. Now, I've got some good news for you, and I've got some even better news for you. Let me give you the good news first. The good news is what I'm giving you now is the heart, it's the bread and butter of commercial real estate. If you get this, if you get the cash flow analysis and the things that I'm teaching you about income, expenses, and NOI, and then I'm going to show you how to break everything down underneath the NOI, if you can do that, you will find good deals. And the good deals will attract a lender, and that lender will help you to make a quality, solid, sound investment. That's the good news, okay? The even better news is that once we've solidified your comfort level and your confidence in doing this by hand with the help of a business calculator, once we've got you doing this and it's in your mind and you're doing this with repetition, then I've got an entire module called the Spotter module where I'm going to take 20-25 minutes and show you how all of this is done automatically by simply entering some very basic property metrics. Don't skip over there yet. I need to get you through this by hand so that you've got a confidence level. Now, here's the sample property, all right? We've got a 20-unit apartment building right here, and it has a unit mix, and the unit mix is just a phrase, a description of the different elements of the property. In other words, how many 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, and so on. This particular 20-unit building has 5 1 bedrooms, 10 2 bedrooms, and then 5 3 bedrooms. So that's what we would call a very solid, a very balanced unit mix. Now the average rent, so I've taken the 1s, the 2s, and the 3 bedrooms, and I've added up all of the different rents, and then I've come up with an average, okay? And the average rent per month is $600, all right? So for this 20-unit building, I can establish an income stream of $600 a month. Now, interestingly enough, we already have an asking price, and you'll know as you work with me more and more, and as we may have an opportunity to work on the ground together for a few days on a mentorship to build your business, you'll find that I'm not really that concerned typically with someone's asking price, but I am concerned with valuation. I want to know how much that property is worth. Because quite honestly, if it's worth more than what the person's asking, that doesn't bother me at all. I'll give you a full price. I'll pay more than what you're asking for because I'm going to pay based on a margin of what the property is worth. Now, obviously, do we want to buy it for under what an asking price would be? Well, of course. But the most important thing is knowing what the asset is really worth. That's why you're going to be in the very top 10%, 5% if you get the valuation and the cash flow model. So let's review. We've got a very nice unit mix of 1s, 2s, and 3s. The average rent per month is $600. It's a 20-unit apartment building with an asking price of $729,000. And so I ask you, is it a good deal? Let's find out. Let's do a cash flow analysis. Now, by the way, when I ask the question, is it a good deal, you would be absolutely amazed at what people answer. Some folks will say, well, you know what, it really is a good part of town. Oh, I know that apartment building. My cousin Sally lives there. It's really great. Yeah, that sounds like a good deal. Well, let's see, it's under $1 million. I think that's a pretty good deal. You know what? The only answer to the question, is it a good deal, is let's take a look at the numbers, okay? So if I ever ask that to you, that's what I want you to say. Is it a good deal? Let's take a look at the numbers. All right, we start with what? Remember, the cash flow analysis always starts with gross income. And let me just draw a dotted line here to separate our property characteristics from the cash flow model. Gross income. Now, you remember the definition and how we generate this. We take the average rent per month, which is $600, and we multiply that by the number of units. So if I've got a 20-unit apartment building, that's going to be $12,000 a month, right? Then everything is done annually. Remember, in commercial, we always look at a 12-month period. Residential is monthly, commercial is annual. Why? Because it's a business as well. I mean, what we're really doing here is not necessarily just talking real estate. What we're doing is we're valuing and running analyticals on how this business is operating. And this particular business has a gross income of $144,000. Now, I know that you can watch me do this cash flow analysis, but let me urge you to write down on your notebook or on your computer, whatever's easiest for you. You really need to do this with repetition so that it becomes a second nature to you. Whether you're great in math or you struggle a little bit, just write this down. It'll give you a good opportunity to really get it ingrained in your heart and in your mind, okay? So our gross income is $144,000. Now, you might ask the question or even make a comment and say, well, you know, aren't there ways that I can just take that number and kind of arrive at a basic NOI? Absolutely, all right? We have different rules, we have different shortcuts, and we'll discuss those. But for now, let's just make sure that we do it by hand so that we do it right, so that we're valuing the asset like it should be analyzed. Now, one of the tools that I would highly recommend is using a business calculator. All right, I happen to use an HP 10B2. I'll write it here for you. It's an HP 10B2. All right. Made by Hewlett-Packard. No, I am not an HP spokesman, nor do I get any profit when you buy this calculator. Now, I've got a couple at home that I've just purchased at Best Buy and OfficeMax, but on my iPhone, I'm able to get an app, which is absolutely fantastic. The app is exactly the calculator that I have at home, and it travels with me wherever I go. The reason I like this one is just because I'm able to do a lot of different rates of return. I can calculate internal rate of return, IRR. I can do net present value. Certainly I can do cash on cash, which I can do in any calculator, but it's also an amortization schedule, all right? So have a calculator handy. This will help, all right? So I'm pulling up my HP 10B2, all right? You can use any business calculator, just the one that I like, because the next calculation is vacancy. And in this particular situation, our vacancy rate is 8%. So right away, we're going to buffer our cash flow analysis, and I'm going to enter 144,000. You do the same, all right? And I'm going to multiply it by 8%. All right, and that equals $11,520. All right? $11,520. So that's the amount that I'm putting in my cash flow analysis to buffer for vacancy. What's the next item? Okay, other income. So let's make sure we have this. Now in this particular situation, these property characteristics allow for some laundry and a $2,000 amount for that. So while I'm subtracting $11,520 for vacancy, I'm adding back in $2,000 for my laundry. Somewhere here in the building, I've got some laundry facilities, coin-operated washer and dryer. All right, what's the next line item? It's EGI, effective gross income. I'll write it out one more time. Effective gross income. All right, and the reason that we use that term is that this is really the amount of money, this is really the income that we are going to base the rest of the model on. So we've buffered for any other revenue streams and for vacancy loss, and now this is the effective amount of revenue that's being generated that we can run expenses through. So what we do on our calculator is take the 144,000 and we subtract, do this with me please, 11,520, and then we add back in plus $2,000, okay? And we arrive at an EGI of $134,480. I'll just put dollar signs here so we aren't confused. All right, so that's the income stream. That's our income for the property. That makes sense? All right, and folks, it's the same for a 20 unit. It's the same for an 8 unit. It's the same for a 250 Class A apartment building that just opened its doors 30 days ago. All right, it's the same for all of the different spaces. This is how commercial real estate works, and this is how it's valued. So just get a good grasp of this, all right? Have confidence with this because you're going to be doing this over and over and over again. Now, we have to buffer for expenses. Now, if we had time, I'd list them out. We have taxes, we have insurance, we have different utilities, so I've got gas and electric. I have snow removal, except for you folks in Southern California and parts of Arizona, that type of thing. Florida, you probably don't have snow removal, but you have a lot of, you bring out the Orkin guys, and so you're always spraying for bugs, that type of thing, I suppose. The pest control category. We may have maintenance, capital expenditures or CapEx, and so you get a feel for all of those. We include advertising and marketing in there, phone, all of those different expenses, anything that we move out from our budget, from our fund, any dollars that move out to operate the property. All right. In this particular case, we have operating expenses that equal 44%. Okay? Operating expenses, 44%. So what I'm going to do is take my EGI, and you do this with me please, my EGI of 134,480, and I'm going to subtract 44% of that, which is 59,171. And now I'm going to arrive at my NOI, my net operating income. Write this down, please. Just follow me, write it down. Net operating income, 74,308. All right, and that is the number. That's the vital number. That's the number that I want to know. Because now I have an understanding of starting to formulate a real answer to the question, is this a good deal or not? Because when I look at this NOI, I've got a feel for the actual valuation of the asset. All right, so now that we've arrived at $74,308, we've got a couple of questions to ask, okay? The first thing is we've got to make sure that this property might cash flow based on any debt service or leverage that we're bringing into it. Secondly, since we have to put some debt service or some leverage into it, we want to make sure that we're going to pay the right amount, that we're making a correct offer based on the opportunity that the property is giving to us, okay? How do we do that? Well, what we're going to do very quickly, and I'll explain this in the next module with more detail, is right now we're going to use a shortcut method, and all I'm going to do is add in my mind a 0 to the end of my NOI. So my NOI is $74,308. I'm going to move the comma by adding a 0, and basically what I'm doing is I'm using the NOI to give me a value with a 10% capitalization rate. Now, if that sounded a little bit Greek there, then just go to the next module when we're done here, and we're really going to dive into that, and I'll explain it fully. But for now, this is just a quick shortcut method to see whether or not this might be a good deal. So if I add a 0 here, by doing that, then I'm telling myself, okay, if I buy this property for $743,000, then I'd be buying at a 10 cap, and that might be a good deal. The reason I use the 0 is because that's a shortcut method to tell me that if I can buy it for that amount, the property will allow me to get some cash flow even if I'm fully leveraged, even if I have a 100% financing. Say, Kevin, you can't get 100% financing right now. I'll explain how you do that. But even if we have that, the property would still cash flow. Okay, now, you're moving toward the edge of your chair here because you just realized something. If Kevin is telling you that if you buy this for $743,000, you can make some cash flow without putting any money into the deal, the guy's only asking $729,000. Wait a minute, isn't this a good deal? And where can I find this deal? Well, here's what we're going to do. All right. In the next module, I'm going to explain how we value it from the net operating income down based on capitalization rate, applying debt service, applying private equity, and the seller held 10% note. And then we're going to see how much cash flow is really there. What happens if we put a little bit of money into it? What happens if we don't put any money into it? That's in the next model when we fill in this other side here, all right?